23 years ago, Nigeria lost a president that never was. The morning of Tuesday, 7th July 1998 was like any other Tuesday before it, until news came that Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, popularly known as MKO Abiola, had passed on. It was a news that shattered the imagined future of millions of Nigerians who had expected that influential businessman was to be announced Nigeria's president. Earlier, Chief Abiola had contested a national election and was believed to have won based on the result announced so far, until the historic annulment by the military junta of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, who had hung on to the excuse that the nationwide civic exercise was corrupt and unfair.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral practices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
The self-styled military president threw the nation into a frenzy with that singular act from which Nigeria never recovered. Born on Tuesday, 24th August 1937, MKO Abiola, a trained accountant, grew to become a successful businessman of international repute with investment in agriculture as the owner of Abiola Farms, education, Abiola Bookshops, telecommunications, radio communications Nigeria, food, Wonder Bakeries, media, Concord Press, aviation, Concord Airlines, oil and gas, Summit Oil International Limited, African Ocean Lines, banking, Abib Bank, Decca West Africa Limited, and in sport, Abiola Football Club, among others. When he was 19, he joined the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, which started his foray into partisan politics. In 1980, he became a member of the National Party of Nigeria (NPN) and was elected state chairman of his party in Ogun State. His interest in contributing his own quota to the development of Nigeria encouraged him to remain resolute in his involvement in politics until February 1993, when he declared interest to contest for the #1 position in the land. Abiola wanted to become the president of the world's most populous nation, Nigeria. This was after a previous round of presidential primaries had been cancelled by the military president Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. Chief Abiola won the national primary of the Social Democratic Party (SDP) held in the city of Jos in March 1993. He defeated, among others, Alhaji Babagana Kingibe and Alhaji Abubakar Atiku to emerge the party's flag bearer. During the first ballot, Abiola was able to score a slim majority vote of 3,617 compared to Kingibe's 3,225. A second round was contested 2 days later, and Abiola again emerged victorious with a slim margin, and he became the party's presidential candidate for the June 12, 1993 election. He and Kingibe, who later became his running mate, were to run against Alhaji Bashir Tofa and his running mate Sylvester Ugo, who once served as the governor of the Bank of Biafra, Biafran Central Bank. Tofa and Ugo ran on the ticket of the National Republican Convention (NRC). MKO Abiola's national campaigns were full of hopes: hope of an improved economy, hope for uplifted standard of education, hope for a more secured nation, hope for total reformation on all fronts. Of particular prominence is his campaign on an economic policy which included negotiations with foreign creditors and better management of the country's international debts. It was indeed a year of hope for many Nigerians, and those who witnessed that season will never forget the slogan of Hope 1993.
For this life, oh, na so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Guinea, no work, no food, no house, no life. This small water, then they bring na so dirty, they pull am. This small money, I they get na so transport, they chop am. School low, na headache, hospital, no work, I tire for life, oh. My brother, waiting you they think, oh. My sister, help don't come. SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the hope, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life, oh. MKO, 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 action. Abiola, 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 progress. Now he be the hope for better tomorrow.
That was the catchphrase of the Abiola campaigns. It was indeed a time for Nigerians to decide their future, a time to anticipate what the nation would look like after the elongated military rule. And so, the expectations were high and people prepared for the polls.
We don't want Babangida again, and we want MKO.
Who's MKO?
Abiola.
On June 10, 1993, exactly 2 days before the election, a group known as Association for a Better Nigeria, ABN, led by Chief Arthur Nzeribe, approached the court to procure an injunction against the election. The group alleged that the build-up to the poll was riddled by various forms of corruption and as such succeeded in getting the court to rule that the election should not hold. But the National Electoral Commission, NEC, was smarter. Its chairman, Professor Humphrey Nwosu, faulted the High Court authority on election-related matters. He went on to conduct the election as originally planned for Saturday, June 12, 1993, across the nation. It was a clean contest, and at the end of the day, independent observers drawn from across the globe were unanimous that indeed the election was Nigeria's freest and fairest in its political history. Although voter turnout was low at about 35%, while there were reports of administrative and political problems in some parts of the country, this never degenerated into any serious crisis to mar the polls. By Monday, June 14, 1993, Professor Humphrey Nwosu-led electoral umpire had started announcing the results of the election in bits. According to Ian Campbell, in his piece published in the Journal of Contemporary African Studies titled Nigeria's Failed Transition, the 1993 presidential election, Abiola won 19 out of 30 states and the Federal Capital Territory. He won all the states of the Southwest, 3 of the 7 states in the Southeast, 5 of the 9 northern states including Kano, Tofa's state, and 4 out of the 7 states in the Central Middle Belt. Of the 6.6 million votes that had been announced, Abiola had received 4.3 million and Tofa 2.3 million. If Abiola had been declared the winner, he would have been at that time the first Southerner to be elected as president of Nigeria, breaking through ethno-religious divides, having received support from all regions of the country. The Arthur Nzeribe's Association for Better Nigeria returned to the trenches. It procured another injunction stopping the continued announcement of the election results by the neck. So, on Wednesday, June 16, 1993, the electoral body announced on national radio its decision to obey court orders and thereby suspending the announcement till further notice. Hopes were shattered, or at least they were frozen, as Nigerians kicked against what was deemed an affront against their wishes in a democracy that never was. Although some political activists leaked the final result of the election, military President Ibrahim Babangida went to national media on 24th of June to announce the annulment of the election. His reasons: there were reported cases of vote buying and the need to protect the country's judiciary.
It is true that the presidential election was generally seen to be free, fair, and peaceful. However, there was in fact a huge array of electoral malpractices virtually in all the states of the Federation before the actual voting began.
This announcement became a watershed in the history of Nigeria. It was a singular action that changed the trajectory of the nation's political history for life, as it threw Nigeria into a spontaneous frenzy of nationwide protests and demonstrations. According to archival media reports, hundreds of unarmed Nigerians were killed by the military, just as the junta proscribed public demonstrations and suspended activities of the electoral umpire, the NEC. All entreaties, even by the international community, fell on deaf ears. No one could go to court because IBB had made a decree banning the judiciary from entertaining issues relating to the election. All efforts to return Nigeria to democracy appeared to have been frustrated, but the resilience of civil rights organizations, politicians, journalists, and millions of everyday Nigerians kept the hope alive. They fought and demanded that their wishes as expressed in the June 12, 1993 election be respected and allowed to stand. IBB and the military council would not hear anything about that. They continued in office even in the face of stiff nationwide opposition. Demonstrations continued even as the killings of harmless Nigerians by the military never stopped. Journalists were arrested and media houses proscribed, but rights activists never stopped their campaigns for the restoration of June 12 mandate. Chief MKO Abiola, winner of the election, was also busy seeking international support for the actualization of the mandate Nigerians freely gave him at the poll. He was engaged in a series of meetings and visitations in America and Europe, all in an attempt to have the military respect the people's wishes and pronounce him Nigeria's democratically elected president.
It will continue off and on until the military release the result of the June 12 election and put the democratically elected president, who is myself, in charge of affairs. I won't go to war. I won't encourage my supporters to go to war. I will fight for peace, and we will get peace. But you see, we do not want the peace of a graveyard, a peace whereby somebody continues to ride on the rest of us with a gun. We will get peace, but we'll get peace with decency and integrity and honesty and probity and democracy.
IBB and his team were unmoved. On Thursday, August 26, 1993, the martial music came alive on national TV and radios. It was the military president addressing the nation. In a speech, IBB announced that in reference to the junta's promise of a handover, he was stepping aside as Nigeria's military head of state. Indeed, it was a step aside, as later development proved. MKO Abiola's kinsman, Ernest Shonekan, a lawyer, was announced as head of the transition government set up by the military. General Sani Abacha was his defense minister. Many political historians believe that the idea of instituting a transitional government headed by a Yoruba man from the same state as MKO Abiola was to placate the southwest and to also quell the widespread uprising. Sadly, this never did. The protests continued unabated, and also the killings, maiming, and illegal detentions of protesters by the armed forces. On Wednesday, 17th of November 1993, General Sani Abacha, being the Minister of Defense and the most senior officer within the military hierarchy, forced the interim president Ernest Shonekan to hand over power unceremoniously. In his nationwide broadcast, General Abacha cited the socio-political uncertainties under the interim national government as a cause for his resignation. This again did not kill the spirit of Nigerians who insisted on the realization of the June 12, 1993 mandate given to MKO Abiola and Babagana Kingibe to form a democratically elected government for the people of Nigeria. On Saturday, June 11, 1994, when it seemed like the military was not going to do the needful of announcing Chief MKO Abiola as the president, having won the June 1993 election, the SDP candidate declared himself the democratically elected president of Nigeria in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island.
The people of this country went to polls on Saturday, June 12, 1993, and without let or hindrance chose me as their president. Didn't they? They did.
This action became the beginning of the last lap of Abiola's sojourn on earth, as he was instantly declared wanted, accused of treason, and arrested on the orders of military president General Sani Abacha, who sent 200 police vehicles to bring him into custody.
His most recent action of declaring himself the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria incited the public to insurrection and attempting to topple the government by force with a view to installing himself as president, however led to his arrest by the law enforcement agents.
What is happening at your house? Are you being arrested?
I'm being arrested. I'm just going out now with the police.
Hello?
You see, there's a large crowd here, and I was being escorted out to detention by singing the national anthem.
Why are they arresting you?
They are arresting me on an allegation of felony, nameless treason or something like that. They're not doing anything, they're just taking me away. Please let me go. You know, I'm delaying them.
And so where are you now? Are you in your car?
I'm in my car now.
Is it police who are with you in your car, or are they escorted? Are they
Yes, the commissioner of police is in the car with me, and my senior wife is in the car with me.
Why are they letting you talk on the phone to the BBC while they're in the middle of arresting you?
They have come to arrest me, not to arrest my mouth.
You sound very cheerful about it, Chief Abiola.
Of course, you know, it is all part of democracy here.
And you're happy to go to the police and await whatever charges they're going to file against you?
I'm not in any way disturbed by it. Any sacrifice is in order. If it will bring democracy, peace and prosperity to Nigeria.
Is it possible to talk to the Commissioner of Police who's with you in the car?
I don't know if the Commissioner of Police is authorized to talk. He cannot talk to the press.
What is your advice now to your supporters, many of whom we heard a moment ago?
Well, I told them before I left home to just stay calm. It is very, very important that they stay calm.
So you're appealing for calm, you don't want them to take any direct action in your support?
No.
You still say you're the president of Nigeria, but it's not much good if you're going to be in jail.
Well, Mandela was in jail for 27 years. Kenyatta was in jail. I suppose that is one of the qualifications you need in this part of the world. Don't worry yourself, my friend.
He remained in military custody for the next 4 years until Tuesday, July 7, 1998, when it was announced that Chief MKO Abiola had died. Circumstances surrounding his death remain uncleared until today, but one thing that is clear to the world is that Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola died a hero of democracy, and his contributions to the democratic development of Nigeria remain without doubt.